You're a high achieving, highly ambitious Black woman. You are smart, you're good looking, you're funny, you have great friends, you have a job that, you work, do what you need to do. You're happy with the money you have, but you're single. Nothing's wrong with being single, but you don't want to be single. In fact, you would love to be in a loving partnership, maybe a marriage, and you would love to have a family, but you don't want to settle. But you haven't figured out, whether you're 30, 35, 40, 45, you haven't figured out, why haven't you met the right guy? Why hasn't it happened for you? I am going to share some 3 major areas that you may need to look more deeply into. These I would consider to be the most common, but there are a myriad of reasons why you are still single. And because law of attraction always applies, the answer is you. It is you. I promise it's you, and we'll get into it more. Hey, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Sharice. I help Black men and women heal from trauma and toxic relationships. And today we'll be talking about why you're single and how you can attract the love of your life. The first area we'll be talking about is your attitude or your mindset about how you view love, relationships, men. All of those things are important. They need to be aligned in how you view yourself in relation to. Otherwise, you're just going to always have a conflict. You're not quite going to get it. So let's talk about men. And if you are interested in partnering with a Black man, bless your heart. Listen, bless my heart. I think all the things are doable. Like no matter what it is that you want, you can have it. But we're going to talk about, parameters, expectations, all of those things. I think it's very important to check yourself on how you view men, because it is true we live in a patriarchal society. It is true men have these privileges. Not all men are terrible, right? But if you sort of walk around with this belief system that men are terrible, or there are no good men, or that a man has to prove himself to you. So it's beyond earning your trust by demonstrating his consistency over time between his words and his actions. It's like he has to buy in a certain way. It's one of those unnatural scenarios where someone ends up feeling judged and not appreciated for who they are. So I think it would be important for you to consider, what are your views on men in general, and what are your views on Black men specifically? You can go based on, what was your relationship like with your father growing up? What is it like now? Were there any other male figures in your life? Have you ever had a positive experience with a man, right? Whether it was a mentor or one of your teachers or professors. Have you ever? And if you have not, I would say that's probably a place to start. I encourage my clients when they hate men, and I think it takes a lot to admit that you hate men. But when you get to the point where you acknowledge that I'm afraid of men, men make me uncomfortable, but you want to be in a relationship with a man, that contrast will lead to you never quite being in a fulfilling relationship. So I would start with consuming content geared towards men, or consuming content made by men for everyone, whether it's like a cooking show or something where, someone with a balanced view. I have a few men that I follow that I think talk balanced, holistically about relationships between men and women, but it could be any topic. The goal is to create an understanding of men and also view them as humans. So they're allowed to be flawed, they're allowed to make mistakes, and your understanding of them helps you interact with them better. At the same time, I think it's also really important to understand your views on relationships in general. I think a lot of us don't really have an understanding of what marriage entails. And I've done a deep dive of people who've been married for decades, what their recommendations are for folks who are in the dating process in those first early years of being in your long-term relationship. What kind of conflicts might you all have? How do you engage in the communication, the sexual intimacy? How do you resolve things? Like, what are your goals? How do you create a vision? How do you share finances? I have a playlist of like me preparing for marriage. I think it's very important to understand what a relationship entails, so that you're not blindsided by the expectations in terms of time requirements. This is a person that if you're in a normal relationship, right? If he's not out to sea or something, this is a person you talk to every day. It's a person you're going to be sharing your life with. What does that mean on a day-to-day basis? So if you view a relationship as confinement, then why would you invite a healthy, loving relationship into your life if you view relationships as things where people are controlling you or stopping you from being yourself, stifling you, right? That's really not the ideal for a relationship. But if part of your mindset, your viewpoint is that this is what you expect in a relationship, that is what you're going to get. And because you are at odds with yourself, you know, I want a relationship. And I also, deep down inside, you're unconsciously saying, I want to be controlled. You don't really want to be controlled, but that's part of what you're attracting. Then you are never going to find a relationship that's for you because you know that's not for you. It is so at odds with you, but you haven't done the fine tuning that's necessary to attract what you really want. Next, we're going to talk about boundaries. And for most women, I think the idea of boundaries needs to be addressed just in general, friendships, family, work, but specifically in relationships. In 2024, if you're around my age, I just turned 35, then you may have unrealistic expectations of the person that you're dating. You may then, if you get into a relationship, also have unrealistic expectations about what it's supposed to be like. And at the other end is being too rigid. So still unrealistic expectations, but in terms of rigidity, not giving people a chance. This was part of my problem. Not getting to know people, not allowing men to be human and to make mistakes. You not having healed from your past relationship trauma or trauma that may have come from before, and seeing attacks from everywhere versus acknowledging that here's an imperfect person who hopefully is presenting their best self in the beginning, but sometimes it's a mask for the truth. And so if the person is wearing a mask, you don't want to continue with that person. But if it's just a human like you who is doing their best, what would it look like if you did give them a chance and didn't write people off on the first or second date or the 1 or 2 phone calls that you had with them? I hear a lot of women talking about what a man has to do for me, what a guy I'm with has to do this for me, and he needs to do this, and then there's a million things on the list. I think there are, going back to like expectations for a relationship, that process of getting to know a person that can lead to marriage, it doesn't always follow the same script, right? Some people meet at a party, go home together, never separate. Some people are long distance and then they get together after 2 years and they can both live long, healthy marriages, all of that stuff. But there are some general, I think, guidelines when it comes to the getting to know you process. And so expecting a man on date 3 to want to or should pay all of your bills, I think is very unrealistic. I think in the social media age when people have glamorized sex work, which I think is valid work, but still work, you do not want to be a sex worker. You want to be a partner in a loving relationship. So transactional relationships, I would really encourage you to steer away from. I think money is important. I think having a masculine man, if that's what you want, is also important. But you also have to give people time to show you who they are. They also need to get to know you. And to feel entitled to a man's time when he hasn't expressed exclusive commitment to you, or after 3 months, you're feeling like you should be one place when in actuality, you all have only gone out like every other week and talk maybe twice on the phone during the week. There's not a lot of time in the getting to know you process. So why do you feel entitled to this man's time or money, or feel like he should be paying for this or he should be doing this when the foundation for a relationship hasn't really been built yet? There's not enough time. There hasn't been enough energy or effort put into it to have built something where he would want to do those things. Just going back to the guidelines that have worked for a lot of people, right? Anyone can do things differently. If you're of a particular age, a lot of people know in their 50s, 60s, oh, 3 months you can move in. Like, we've been through this process already. We know what it's like. We know what to expect. But if that's not your experience, I would say go slow. You should be independent and financially stable before you get into a relationship. A man is not a retirement plan. And so if you're looking for that sort of, I need a man to take care of me or to be the security in the kind of way where if he's not there, you are going to fall apart, I would really say you don't need to be dating. You need to be learning financial literacy and learning how to take care of yourself. Even though you want to be in a partnership where a man wants to provide for you, that providing part is like on wife level, right? We're in serious commitment territory when a man is providing most or all of the needs for you, right? And then my third and last area on why you're probably still single, even though you are a catch, my dear, is your lack of relationship experience, right? So this is not 100% of the time if you haven't had a relationship in your 20s, that in your 30s, you know, couldn't meet one guy who you're set up with, like whatever, and y'all live happily ever after. Generally speaking, I like to follow the guidelines. I like to follow the research, the things that people have accumulated a lot of data on to gather the averages, right? If you don't have relationship experience, never had a boyfriend in your teenage years, you know, dated for maybe 3 months, max 6, right? Haven't had anything longer than 2 years in terms of relationship and learn something about yourself at the end of it, I would say there's a lot of work to do in this area on learning, like, what does a relationship entail? How do you vet a man? What is your standard, right? And your standards are based on your values. So you need to have very clearly defined values that dictate your standards so that you can have realistic expectations for the person that you're engaged with. How do you know what a red flag is? Do you know what a red flag is? I think maybe the extreme ones you might know, but what about more subtle red flags? And then what about red flags that are specific to you? If you want to have children and you are on a date with a man who's giving you hints, because a lot of people don't say things directly, but are sending the red flags that, you know, he already has a child that's like 15 years old. You know, he's talking about he can't wait to be done, how, you know, maybe he's thinking never doing this again. Those are signs that you all are not aligned. And I think I have another video about just because a man is great doesn't mean he's the right man for you. Like, it is okay to reject men who are interesting, funny, you know, stable, good citizens. If they are not the right match for you, you're really looking for this love of a lifetime. And I mean, I don't believe in only one soulmate. I think there are lots of people that you can connect with, but you're going to want to be aligned on a lot of the major things. They say opposites attract, but really like-minded people are the ones that stick together because they have a lot of things in common. They share those really, really important values that help them stick through the tough times. And so also understanding that tough times are a part of relationships. There's no one who's been married decades that's not going to describe to you at least 1 or 2 really dark periods in their relationships. And so being able to work through that time, have patience to know that you're going to get to the other side is really what makes a difference between those who get divorced and those who don't. But it's very important that you understand what compromise look like, what a normal, right? So a non-toxic conflict looks like. And even if it is toxic, right, there are ways to improve a toxic relationship that I won't get into here, but having conversations with your partner, an openness, a transparency, lots and lots of honesty, but at the foundation, a commitment is necessary for that getting to know you process. So you don't just kick people to the curb because they've made a mistake, but also you don't just let anybody in because you're, you know, just wanting somebody that looks good, right? When their character isn't aligned with their looks. This may not be the information you expected, but I fully believe that our life is in our hands. You are the manifester of your life. You can create anything you want. I promise you, you can have a loving husband who's good looking, who is great with the kids, who wants to support you, who is a real partner. You can have all of that. But a lot of personal work often needs to be done. And I did a couple of videos on the workbook. It's kind of like a workbook, Calling in the One, that I highly recommend. If you've done a lot of that background work on yourself and you're just like, where's the fine tuning? I need one more switch. You can consider all the points that I've listed in this video, but you can also grab that book because I think it's very helpful for eliminating any other blockages that you might have to love. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, share this video with someone you think it may help, and thank you for watching.